Hi there again. This is Chapter 2 of A Rose for Emily by William Faulkner. Want more stories? Then let's begin. She did not ask them to sit. She just stood in the door and listened quietly until the spokesman came to a stumbling halt. Then they could hear the invisible watch ticking at the end of the gold chain. Her voice was dry and cold. "I have no taxes in Jefferson. Colonel Sartoris explained it to me. Perhaps one of you can gain access to the city records and satisfy yourselves." "But we have. We are the city authorities, Miss Emily. Didn't you get a notice from the sheriff signed by him?" "I received a paper, yes," Miss Emily said. "Perhaps he considered himself the sheriff. I have no taxes in Jefferson." "But there's nothing on the books to show that. You see, we must go by the See Colonel Sartoris. I have no taxes in Jefferson." "But, Miss Emily..." "See Colonel Sartoris. I have no taxes in Jefferson." "Toby!" The negro appeared. "Show this gentleman out." So she vanquished them, horse and foot, just as she had vanquished their fathers 30 years before about the smell. That was 2 years after her father's death and a short time after her sweetheart, the one we believed would marry her, had deserted her. After her father's death, she went out very little. After her sweetheart went away, people hardly saw her at all. A few of the ladies had the temerity to call, but were not received, and the only sign of life about the place was the negroman, a young man then going in and out with a market basket. Just as if a man, any man, could keep a kitchen properly, the lady said. So they were not surprised when the smell developed. It was another link between the gross, teeming world and the high and mighty Griersons. A neighbor, a woman, complained to the mayor, Judge Stevens, 80 years old. "But what will you have me to do about it, madam?" He said. "Why, send her word to stop it." The woman said. "Isn't there a law?" "I'm sure that won't be necessary." Judge Stevens said. "It's probably just a snake or a rat that man of hers killed in the yard. I'll speak to him about it." The next day, he received 2 more complaints, one from a man who came in different deprecation. "We really must do something about it, Judge. It'll be the last one in the world to bother Miss Emily, but we've got to do something." That night, the board of aldermen met 3 graybeards and 1 younger man, a member of the rising generation. "It's simple enough," he said. "Send her word to have her place cleaned up. Give her a certain time to do it in, and if she don't, damn it, sir." Judge Stevens said, "Will you accuse the lady to her face of smelling bad?" So the next night, after midnight, 4 men crossed Miss Emily's lawn and slunk about the house like burglars, sniffing along the base of the brickwork and at the cellar openings while one of them performed a regular sewing motion with his hand out of a sack slung from his shoulder. They broke open the cellar door and sprinkled lime there and in all the outbuildings. As they crossed the lawn, a window that had been dark was lighted, and Miss Emily sat in it, the light behind her and her upright torso motionless as that of an idol. They crept quietly across the lawn and into the shadow of the locusts that lined the street. After a week or 2, the smell went away. That was when people had begun to feel really sorry for her. People in her town, remembering how old Lady Wyatt, her great-aunt, had gone completely crazy at last, believed that the Griersons held themselves a little too high for what they really were. None of the young men were quite good enough for Miss Emily and such. We had long thought of them as a taboo. Miss Emily, a slender figure in white in the background, her father, a spraddled silhouette in the foreground, his back to her and clutching a horse whip. The two of them framed by the back-flung front door. So when she got to be 30 and was still single, we were not pleased exactly, but vindicated. Even with insanity in the family, she would not have turned down all of her chances if they had really materialized. The day after his death, all the ladies prepared to call at the house and offered condolence and aid. As is our custom, Miss Emily met them at the door, dressed as usual and with no trace of grief on her face. She told them that her father was not dead. She did that for 3 days, with the ministers calling on her and the doctors trying to persuade her to let them dispose of the body. Just as they were about to resort to law and force, she broke down, and they buried her father quickly. We did not say she was crazy then. We believed she had to do that. We remembered all the young men her father had driven away, and we knew that with nothing left, she would have to cling to that which had robbed her, as people will. She was sick for a long time. When we saw her again, her hair was cut short, making her look like a girl with a vague resemblance to those angels in colored church windows, sort of tragic and serene. This is where A Rose for Emily Chapter 2 ends. But still, thank you for listening. I am glad that you stay with me until the end. Till the next chapter. Have a nice day.